Okay. Okay, so let me please introduce everyone to Norman Bodek. I'm sure many of you know Norman already. I certainly feel like I've known Norman for a long time because of the power of YouTube. But I had the great fortune to be introduced to Norman when I visited US Synthetic, and Travis Russell mentioned Norman was his mentor. And, you know, I had the privilege of being able to speak to Norman only 3 weeks ago, and already Norman feels like a great friend. So, you know, it's a great honor, and I was very keen that we try and extend this to our wider community to try and share some of Norman's background with many, many people. And I'm just hoping that this can really help us continue to trigger some of our initiatives, which, you know, from inside out, if we can just take a little bit of Norman's wisdom and, you know, all try and do something with it, would be absolutely fantastic. So, golden opportunity, great to take it. I believe, Norman, you have done a keynote speech for Dover previously, is that correct?
Yes, I'm not sure, maybe it was 8 years ago. It was in Utah. And I had the privilege of spending maybe a half an hour to an hour with
Bob Livingston.
Bob Livingston. And I'd love the opportunity to meet with him again. And I'm very happy, Neil, that you opened this connection. And I hope that we could expand it, which means that you would decide that Dover is going to become the absolute best company in the world in your products. And it's doable. I mean, look what Toyota did. Toyota back in about 1955, 1960, they were 9 times behind General Motors. And General Motors went bankrupt. And look at Toyota today. And they adapted, of course, continuous improvement.
So, Norman, I asked you, when we first spoke 3 weeks ago, I asked you, how did you first get into this whole lean thing? And can you share that story? I think it went back to 1979.
1979, I was most fortunate to get fired. You know, I was president of a data processing company. I didn't own the company, and I was on an airplane. I was just coming back from Indianapolis, and I just signed up a very large contract with the Indiana Telephone Company. I was doing data conversion back then, and the president of the company turns to me and says, "Norman, you did a wonderful job, but you're fired." He says, "I don't need you anymore. You've given us enough work for the next 10 years, something like that." But it was a gift because he had to pay me for the next 3 years. I had a very good contract. And in fact, he paid me more not to work than he paid me to work. And then one day, I was reading the New York Times a few months later, and it said productivity declined for the first time in 33 quarters. I didn't know what it meant. But for some strange reason, I went to the library. And I never go to the library. And the reason I never go to the library, because one day my father told me he didn't return a book, and the police came to the door to get the book back. That put a frightened me. Don't go to libraries. I love books. I bought thousands of books in my life. And, but I became fascinated with the word productivity, went to the library, and I found very little literature. But I did find that Japan was the productivity growth rate, the leader in growth in the world, and America was declining. And so I decided after months of research that I would publish a newsletter. And then when I did start the newsletter in 1980, in order to find out what Japan was doing, I went to Japan. And it was a wonderful meeting. Yesterday I was interviewed by Industry Week magazine. And Industry Week ran a conference in New York City in 1980. And Joe Giurai was he was from the Japan Productivity Center in Washington, and he was asking the audience to please open their door and let Japanese come in to visit them and learn from us. And that's what you should be doing in your company, is doing as much benchmarking as you can. And you should be going to Japan. We should be doing a study mission together with just Dover. In fact, Travis was going to go with me, but I decided I'm not going to do it anymore. And so I connected him with a good friend of mine, Paul Akers, and Travis Russell and Eric both are going to be in Japan. And I'm going to meet him. We're going to spend a day together. And we're going to spend a day together also with Mr. Harada. So we'll have a wonderful time in Japan.
So who is Mr. Harada?
I'm going to explain the Harada method. And I hope everybody reads my book, the Harada method book. And Neil, I'm going to be training Neil in the near future on the Harada method. It's a very clever method that this genius in Japan, he's taught 80,000 people already. In fact, one of his students is Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani, when he was a sophomore in high school, determined that he wants to play in the major league. And he went through this method. He created a chart. And in fact, you have a copy of the chart, Neil, and you can send it to anybody that wants. And this is what's called the 64 chart. And Ohtani decided he picked a goal. His goal was to be picked into the major league. And he wrote 64 tasks. He did it. This is the wonderful thing about the method, is you're not told what to do. It's self-reliant. You decide what you want. You write exactly how you're going to get there. Then you follow those tasks. And the only key to this is you need a coach. Everybody needs a coach. The funny thing is every great athlete, almost every great athlete has a coach. Even Tiger Woods has a coach. But we come to work every day and we don't have a coach. It's a failing in our system that I'd like you to think about. You all need a coach. Why? You need somebody that you're going to be more responsible to. Because you'll decide to do something and you'll say, well, I'm too tired today, and you don't do it. But if you're going to do it for somebody else, you'll do it. This is a wonderful method, and we can talk more about it. And if you're interested, I would love to set up classes like this to teach you all the Harada method. Doesn't take that long. In fact, Travis and Eric, 4 people have already come from Dover. I used to run a full week's certification course on the Harada method, and I've trained 4 people at Dover on the method. So we could talk about that more in the future.
That sounds good, Norman. So taking you back to 1979, you got really interested and fascinated by the word productivity. So that led you to numerous experiences and decades in Japan. You've met you've done more than meet some of the masters.
Well, I've been very fortunate. Thank you for bringing me back, Neil, because I tend to drift a lot. And I did that moment, meeting Joe Giurai, I said, would you set up a study mission for me to bring Americans to Japan? And he did. And I went over with 19 senior executives, and miraculously, I found everything. I mean, everything you call lean, I found. I didn't create any of it, but I found Shingo, I found Ohno, I ended up publishing 100 Japanese books in English. And I recommend you, I don't own the company anymore, so I don't get any royalties, but I recommend you go back and look at those books that I brought over from Japan, because they are gangbusters. Go back and really read Shingo's books.
So how did you even come to meet these guys? So you've met Taiichi Ohno, who's a legend in lean, Shingo, Juran, Ed Deming.
Yes, all of them.
How did you even get to meet them?
Well, I'll tell you, because I have one talent. Really one. I started off as the dumbest kid in school, and I hope you'll read my new book. It's called The Miraculous Life, because I was the dumbest one in school, and I ended up meeting all of these geniuses. I have one talent, and that is to recognize the talent in others. So I went to Japan on a study mission. There was 19 of us, and Ryuji Fukuda, he was a vice president in charge of production for Sumitomo Electric, like the General Electric in Japan. And he gave a marvelous talk. And after the talk, I went up to him and I said, you know, I loved your talk. And then he said to me, Norman, I just wrote a book. And I said to him, I'll publish your book in English. I had no idea what I was saying because I never published a book before. And it took me 2 years to figure out how to publish the book, but I did. Once I published it and I saw that I can do it, it was miraculous. I went back on my next trip, and I met Shigeo Shingo. I went to a conference, and Shingo was talking at the conference, and he was in a wheelchair, and I walked over to him, and I made a contact with him, and I invited him to come to America. And he did. He came to America dozens of times. And then he asked me to become his publisher. That was a wonderful, the reason, because he published his first book, which is called, it's called The Green Book, The Study of the Toyota Production System from an Engineering Viewpoint. And I recommend you all go back and read Shingo's Green Book. And you can buy it very cheaply on the Amazon. And it was translated by his son Riccio, but he did a terrible job in translation. It was Jangalese. And then somebody told Shingo it was Jangalese, and he asked me to publish all of his future books. And it was a miracle. He made me a millionaire. Made me a millionaire.
That's very kind of him.
Very kind. The same thing with Ohno. Ohno made me millions of dollars.
What did you learn from Ohno? What are some of the key...
What Ohno did, thank you, Neil. I went to Ohno one day, and it's funny. I said, how did you learn about just-in-time? And Ohno laughed at me. He said, Norman, everything I learned from about just-in-time, I learned from Henry Ford. Henry Ford wrote a book called Today and Tomorrow in 1926. So I came back from Japan. I called my library again. This is funny. I called the librarian, and I said, could you get me a copy of this book written by Henry Ford in 1926? They got me a copy. I read the copy. It was wonderful. It was published by Doubleday. I wrote to Doubleday, called Doubleday, and I said, I want the rights to reprint your book of 1926. They said, okay. I reprinted it and sold 35,000 copies at $35 a book. That's $1 million. And it cost nothing to publish, nothing to do. No editing, nothing. It was...
What did it say in the book? What are the key things from Ohno? What are the key learnings?
Well, the key learning, of course, Ohno, I just sent you a marvelous paper that everybody should look at. It's the Toyota Production System Manual from 1973, and I'll send you the rest of it, Neil, that I have. And in it, Toyota talks about, of course, their aim is just to be super efficient and effective. And what Ohno did is he focused on people. He focused on people. He wanted to reduce the number of people working. That was his goal. But the key to Ohno in Japan is they had lifetime employment. So how do you get rid of people when you can't get rid of them? That's your challenge of managers. We in the West, we take the easy route and we get rid of people. The thing is, you want to be efficient on the factory floor, so you don't want excess labor on the factory floor. In fact, if Ohno would look and see 3 people and they're all working at maybe 30 or 60% efficient, he would take 1 person out and have 2 people do the job. He would go over to a manager, and the manager would have 10 people, and he would say to them, I want you to run this with 7. Now, he had no idea if they could do it with 7. None. But he knew if he didn't ask for the impossible, he'd never get it. That, gentlemen and ladies, is the key to lean manufacturing.
So did he help them? Did he help them from then?
No, he never helped anybody that way. He always asked for the impossible because he didn't know if he was going to get it until he asked. No, he said, I want you to do it. He stood in front of a warehouse one day in Totogose, the major supplier to Toyota, one of them. He looks at this warehouse and he said, at Toyota, we don't need warehouses. He said, get rid of this warehouse. I'll give you 1 year to do it. He walked away. He never told people how to do it. No, that was their job. They knew their job better than anyone else. This is the fault of top management. Top management is trying to tell other people how to do it. They know their job the best. You demand. In fact, I love this Mirai. Mirai, I published a book called The Happiest Company to Work For. And Mirai, was written by a book called, the book was written by Yamada, who is the president of Mirai. It's a company with about 1,000 people in Japan. And he said to the employees, if you want to do something new, do it. Don't ask for permission. Imagine the way you structure your company. You want to empower people, but if they're going to do something new, they have to ask you for permission. And Yamada said, no, don't ask for permission. In fact, he said, if you make a mistake, I'll give you $5 for every mistake that you make. But he said, Jeff, don't make the mistake again. If you make the mistake the second time, you're in trouble. But he encouraged everybody to be self-reliant. That's what the essence of the Harada method is. Teaches you to pick a goal to be self-reliant. Pick a goal to be a master at something. Go ahead, Neil, you have another question.
Are we too obsessed with tools then? You know, we've spent a lot of time talking about the human side of lean. And I'm wondering if we're all too obsessed with the lean tools rather than working on people behaviors. What's your angle?
I used to teach at Portland State University, and I would teach the best of Japanese management, and I put together 33 tools that I acquired over the years, and I would teach that. But Toyota never taught tools. Toyota focused purely on efficiency and effectiveness and innovation. He focused on getting rid of inventory. That was his focus. So in order to get rid of inventory, he goes to Dr. Shingo and he says, Shingo, I want you to reduce the changeover time on this punch press from 4 hours to 2 hours. I want to get the inventory down. And Ohno got this from visiting a supermarket in America. And he watched Mrs. Housewife taking things off the shelf. And it occurred to him, she's taking it off the shelf, which causes the company to replace it. And so it clicked in his mind, we have to go from a push system, which is deciding statistically what goes out to the shelf, and watch the woman taking off the goods, which he called the pull system. And it went into his brain, that's just in time. And so he asked Shingo to get changeovers down. Shingo said, okay. Then Ohno comes back a couple of days later. Shingo, no, 2 hours is no good. You got to go from 4 hours to less than 10 minutes. Shingo said, okay, I'll do it. Well, look. Okay.
So so Shingo became an expert. He was particularly good at setup reduction. Is that what we're saying?
No, Shingo was, to me, the world's greatest consultant. So Shingo was an industrial engineer. Shingo was an industrial engineer. He taught 3,000 employees in industrial engineering at Toyota. Somebody has to mute their mic because they're coming through. Please mute your mic. I'm hearing a lady talk right now in the background.
I see.
Okay, and also, if I can ask you another question, and later we'll open it up so other people can ask questions. It isn't meant to be a monopoly. So you also came across Ed Deming, who many people thought played a major part in turning around Japanese.
Yes.
How did that come about?
Well, back in 1980, there was a video on television in America called "Japan Can Do It, Why Can't We?" And it introduced America to Deming and Juran. Well, they introduced us to these two people. I had a newsletter that I just started, and I called both of them. I went to Juran and I interviewed Juran. He was nice enough to give me an interview. And then I went to Dr. Deming. He gave a lecture in Atlanta, and I live on the West Coast in Washington State near Portland, Oregon. I flew to Atlanta and I met Dr. Deming. I made a big mistake with Deming because I said to Deming, I want to publish your books. And Deming said, Norman, I don't write books. I was stupid because I should have said to Deming, I will write one for you. 8 years later, Mary Walton or something like that wrote, it's easy. You just take your seminar and you write a book from it.
So Norman, you started your whole fascination with lean because of the word productivity.
Yes.
Okay, if I could just ask everyone, please mute your microphones. We have a lot of background noise, so please mute. And So you were fascinated by the word productivity. And for many of us, the word productivity has a connotation of corporate asking for improvement in numbers. So how do we link better to the word productivity? How do we get...
Okay, that's a wonderful question, because we're normally focused on profit. Your manager itself, they want you to improve profit. And so you go crazy improving profit. But the accountants have fooled around with profit. It's not true growth in the company. The end of the year, you make more widgets. You don't even have to sell it, and the profit goes up. Productivity is a measure of output, and the input is normally labor. So you want to reduce your labor, or you want to increase your output. But when I brought over from Japan the Kaizen Blitz, which lots of people are using successfully, I knew when I found that it was worth $1 billion, but I didn't know how to capture it and protect it. And when we taught that, and we immediately took out labor. In 1 week, we ran the event and we took out labor. But they said when you take out labor, you can't get rid of people. You can't give people a reward. You tell them you want continuous improvement, and the result is their unemployment. So what Toyota did is they would take the top people, the most talented people, and create new products. They would train them. They would develop them. And look where Toyota went, from a junk company making junk to the world's largest automobile company, focusing on just continuing to do the best. And I want to show you something. Ask me another question about value creation.
Sorry, Norman, I was on mute for a moment. So, yeah, we've spoken about one of our initiatives in Dover Engineered Systems, which is a Dover value creation process. So for the first time, we're talking across our operating companies about how we try and improve the whole. So, you know, and connotations for that are sharing, helping each other, recognizing our strengths and weaknesses, etc. So it's called Dover Value Creation. And so that has prompted in our conversations you to ask what we mean by value, Norman.
Yes, thank you. I think, let's share my screen. I think it's a great goal, value creation. And I want to show you this. This is a teacup. And I like Japanese tea. And I'm a collector. I like to collect things. I've been all over the world hundreds of times. I've been to Japan. I'm going back on Monday for my 90th trip to Japan. Been to India maybe 24 times. I've been to Europe many, many times. And I love things of value. And I'm showing you this teacup. This teacup, if you look at the price, that's 840,000 yen. That's 8,000 US dollars for a teacup. And that's a new teacup. It's not an old one. It's a new one. Why would somebody pay $8,000 for a teacup? Well, back in the 1990s, I was making millions of dollars a year. I was very rich back then. I would have easily bought this teacup. Why? Why would I spend $8,000 for a teacup? Because I want you to realize this was created by one of the great master craft people in Japan. In fact, what Japan does is they have what's called living legends, and they honor one person every year who's the top of their skill. Maybe 50 people throughout Japan, those that make swords, those that make, various crafts, high skill. And they call them living legends. And people are willing to pay thousands of dollars to own a piece from that legend. Why? Because if you hold this legend in your hand, you can feel the energy of the master. It's there. It's living. Believe me, it's living. Why do we go to museums? Every time I go to London, I go to your museum. The English were very famous in stealing art from all over the world because you owned a good portion of the world and you took back the great art. Why? What was in that great art? It's the energy of the master. I want to look at the same in your.
How do you link that? Norman, how do you link that to what we do day to day in the more industrial things that we make?
Okay, because you're putting, Neil, you're putting your skill into your product. The higher skill that your people have, the finer your product. That's your attention. What we did, unfortunately, goes back to 1800. In the 1800s, people were normally farmers or craftspeople with very high skills. You just look at the buildings. You know, look at the buildings in Europe and you'll see the craft, you'll see the art in them when some of these old buildings. And you cherish your old building. In America, we knock them down, but you cherish them in Europe. And it's fun when you go to Europe to look at that art. And along comes Frederick Taylor and Henry Ford, and they simplify work. And Ford set up this assembly line. And he asked people to just tighten 10 screws. That's all. Tighten 10 screws. In fact, it was, even though he was hiring immigrant labor, he was paying them very well. He couldn't get enough people. He had to double every person's wage to get good people to do this repetitive work. And people would do it because they made a living. I think 100 years later, we're going back to the 1800s. We're going back to the age of high skill. Because
so we went through a phase 100 years ago of division of labor.
Yes.
Now you're saying that's wrong?
Yes. Because it dehumanizes work for human beings. I mean, we talk about the human side of lean. The prime purpose of an organization, of course, is to be successful, to produce products, but to enrich the lives of people that come to work. You want to enrich the lives of your customers. Why don't you start with the people that work for you? Enrich their lives. And how do you do it? You re-examine the way you're doing work. Now, Volvo did it. Volvo set up something called social technical design, and I recommend you all look at social technical design. It's worth going back and reading it and studying it. If we can take social tech and just in time and put them together, you will have the absolute best production system in the world. Volvo built the car by team. BMW does it. Canon does it. Canon had 29 women, last count. They make the whole copier. One woman installs 1,000 parts. It takes her 3 hours to make the copier. At the end of the 3 hours, they interviewed this woman, and she said, you know, I feel I just made another baby.
Fantastic. So are you suggesting that we should all be doing those things?
I recommend you, number one, focus on, you ask everybody in your company to pick a goal. Everyone to pick, Toyota is doing this, by the way. Everyone should pick a goal to be a master at some skill. Everyone. And you, the company, should try to figure out how to reshift what you're doing to give that opportunity to work. If you had a workshop filled with master mechanics, nobody will compete with you. In fact, I tell the story, Neil, about somebody saying, you know, we're losing money on this product, we should get rid of it. No, you don't get rid of that product. No. I went to Whole Foods store, the shopping center, Whole Foods in America, and I bought a milk container, and it was made of glass. And in my state, you return the milk container to the store, but I was confused, and instead of taking the milk bottle back to Whole Foods, I took the milk container to New Seasons, another wonderful store that I go to, and I give it to them. They're going to give me 5 cents back. And the woman says, no, that's not our bottle. I'm not going to give you 5 cents. So what is she saying to me? She's saying, Norman, go back to Whole Foods and give them the bottle. And if I go back to Whole Foods, of course, I'm going to shop there. That's what you don't want your customers to shop anywhere else.
Norman, surely we wouldn't be able to take a tire back to a clothing
Well, that's
store.
what Nordstrom did. Nordstrom's a clothing store. and a rich lady went and says, I want you to take my tire back, and they took it back. What you want to do with your products is you want to reduce your costs. Do it to get everybody to do, you learn value engineering, value analysis. That's a wonderful skill to learn. How can we reduce the cost on this product, number one? Or number two is you increase the price.
So Norman,
number three is you continue to produce it as a loss leader. What Yamada said at Mirai is he said, look, maybe 90% of our products we lose money on. But we get the majority on our other products, and for 50 years we've never lost money, never. And we lose money on most of our items.
I've got a friend who tells me that he doesn't really understand value-added value engineering. So how could you help me? I mean him. Yeah,
but you have to just study it. It's funny. We did this, Neil. You just go to the internet. It's funny. You go here to YouTube. Paul Akers is a good friend of mine. And Paul Akers says every day he is learning something new. Every day he goes to YouTube to learn some new technology. So he goes to YouTube, and in YouTube we put in value analysis. And there we go. Look at all these. Go to YouTube and start to study value analysis. Believe me, it's worth it. It's an amazing technique to look at your products and how do we improve the value? How do we improve the functions? How do we reduce the cost? How do we improve the way it looks, the way it feels, the way it touches, the way it smells? You listen to your product and you improve the value of it. And you set a goal that you're going to be the best in whatever you do, and you're not going to have any more competition in the future. They're not going to be able to compete with Dover.
Okay, so Norman, we talk about being the best and enriching lives. So it sounds like a fantastic journey, but how do we even get started? I mean, we have started.
We're getting started today.
Okay,
we have an opportunity today to do this. And I like Bob Livingston very much. And if we start reaching him, I'm sure he'll totally support this. It's an effort to be number one in everything that we do. And how do we do it? Of course, the best way, if we can reach Bob, is he sets a vision. The key to the Japanese success story, the real key to the Japanese success story is the vision of the company. And the vision, of course, should be long-term. We get caught with this profits today, you know? It's crazy. I want the stock market to go up, but I don't like it when it goes down, right? So I'm focused on this moment, and your CEO is focused on this quarter, because if he doesn't make his numbers, he might be able not to lose his job. But he should get his board of directors to support him and say, look, we're in this for the long term. This is what Toyota did. Wacoal, W-A-C-O-A-L. 50 years ago, Wacoal was very close to going out of business. They make women's lingerie. They were having a lot of trouble. And he set a 50-year plan. He said, in the first 10 years, we're going to make it as a company in Japan. The next 10 years, we're going to be the best Japanese lingerie company. The next 10 years, we're going to start to go out to the world market. The next 10 years, we're going to develop our niche in the world. The next 10 years, we will be the best lingerie company in the world. He started the vision, the long-term vision to get people going. I recommend you all go. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was just going to ask, as we try and enrich people's lives then, so we're talking about the vision. We are also very focused on, other numbers. But am I right in saying that if we focus on enriching lives, the numbers will go in the right direction as well? Or are we expecting?
Of course, that's a part of it. You can use the carrot and stick. People are threatened they have to work. And of course they'll work. They have no choice. They have to work. If they don't, they get fired. But you could enlist people and bring out the depth of their talent. But you have to invest in it. Neil, you told me a wonderful story. You set up a machine shop, you trained 10 people, and now you have 9 wonderful mechanics. You invested in people, which is really great. You focus on value. Look what Apple did with this amazing Apple that many of us have. Look what China did. I mean, I had a little thing about China. Here's China. Look what they did. After they got rid of Mao died, and they allowed people to go into their own business, and then they sold their labor for nothing. 30 cents an hour we paid for their labor. And unfortunately, we used it, and we demanufactured in the West. But now you go to Shanghai, people in Shanghai earn as much money as we do in the West, if not more.
So Norman, help me with the link again. So the link with productivity to enriching lives. How do we make that connection, and how do we, what are our next 1 or 2 steps?
Okay, very good, Neil. You focus on productivity improvement, which is just very simply focusing on increasing your outputs. You increase the number of outputs, or you increase the value of the output. And you get everybody in the company to really begin to understand, to pick a goal for themselves so that they are responsible. You're not responsible for their lives. They are. But if you can get people motivated and understand that they can be responsible for their life, and you're there just to give them the opportunity. If they want to really grow to be a master mechanic, you're going to be there to support them. In Japan, they have a skills chart. And the skills chart is up on the wall. And it shows all the necessary skills we need in the company. And also going down the left side is everybody's name. And they encourage everyone in the company to become certified in all of those skills. And what they do is they take the best talent, you take the best mechanic in your company, and you tell them you're going to be a teacher, and you're going to certify other people's skills. It's as simple as that. Germany has a wonderful apprenticeship system. If you're a young man or a young woman, you can go to a master, part of your education. And you go there and you learn from the master. The master says, look, I'm not going to teach you anything. No, I'm not going to teach you anything. You have to steal it from me. I will provide the opportunity for you to steal from me. You copy from me. And 5, 6 years from now, you should be a master that you can go out and make a great participation in our society. And if you want a machine today, where do you go to buy the machine? You go to Germany. And it's because they focus on skill building.
So that, you're saying, relates to enhanced value.
Yes. You focus on you have a great theme. Great. Whoever picked this theme is a genius.
Juan Carrera is a genius.
Yeah, you focus on this theme, and you just understand what is value. Look at what is real value. What is real worth? And then you make sure your product has that real value. And then you increase. I like, back in 1990, I bought a Lexus. And I still have a Lexus now. I keep buying over the years. And I went one year and I said, this new Lexus looks just like the old Lexus. And then they said to me, yes, Norman, but there's 100 new innovative things in that car that you can't see. And that's what you focus on. You look at your product line, how can we continuously improve it?
So when we ask people to pick a goal, how do we frame that question? Presumably you're referring to a goal inside the workplace within their cell?
Well, I trained the company here on the Harada method, a lumber company, and I had the room filled with managers, and the president of the company was also taking the training from me. And I said everybody should have a goal. And then he got up and said, yes, I want everybody in the company to pick a goal. Came from him, the president. That makes it easier when it comes from the top person. And he said, even if you pick a goal not in the company, that's okay with me. I just want you to grow as an individual. And you'll find if you do this, 95% of the people will pick internal goals because that's what they're doing. So
we shouldn't dissuade the 5% who pick something personal?
No. You want everybody to grow.
And how do we sustain that growth? How do we follow up? What is the way that we keep that conversation current?
Well, as you read more about the Harada method, and I recommend you read my book, The Harada Method, and you all, continue with us. Neil, I hope everybody joins us on the Harada course. It's very simple, One is you look at yourself. Where are you? What's your level of confidence? So I give you a little test. Then I say pick a goal. Well, most people don't have a goal. I went through school and I never had a goal. Teacher never asked me for a goal. But you pick a goal. What do you like the best? Don't give me excuse that you can't find one. Just take something you like and go after it. You can always change later.
And what's the evidence? What's the evidence this method even works?
Well, look at me. 8 years ago, I met Harada. I was very lucky. I taught teaching at Portland State University. Four students says, Norman, I want to intern with you. And I had no idea what intern meant. But I said, okay. And then I went to my friend Nakamura in Japan. And I said, I want to work with you over Skype because I used Skype back then, not Zoom. And I said, I want to train them. And you gave me a map. And I want you to share this map with everybody too. Leo, give them a copy of this map. And on this map, it's a map to get to world class. We want our company to get world. They were using this in Japan, at Japan Management Association. And they took a factory and they divided it into 33 parts. And on this map, one of the parts was standard work. And it said the best technique in standard work is day-to-day management. That's the world's best technique. And it's the Harada method. And so I was lucky that 3 of the students could read Japanese, and my wife is Japanese. We went to Amazon in Japan. We bought 7 books written by Takashi Harada. They read it for me, and I got all excited. I picked up the phone, and I called Harada, and I said, Harada, I want to bring your work to America. He says, okay, and I went to meet him, because that's what I do. I go to Japan, and I find the great geniuses, and I publish their books in English. And then I became so fascinated, I said, Harada, train me. I went to Japan another time, and he trained me in the Harada method. It cost me a lot of money to go to Japan to get trained, but I did it. And then I picked a goal, and my goal was to be the best Harada trainer outside of Japan, because I couldn't compete with him. He's too good. And that was my goal. And I went through the Harada method step by step. I wrote 64 tasks.
Guys, can I ask a question?
Please,
this is
go
Juan
ahead.
Carrera.
Please, go ahead.
So basically what I have seen is that you have met a lot of fantastic genius people around the world. So I'm going to ask you a question. The first one is what you have seen in common between all these people. Okay. The second question that I have is based on your experience, based on meeting many people, meeting many companies, what has been the major roadblock in order to put this in place? And the third one is what is at the end, what is your takeaway? What is the major element that needs to happen in order to be successful? So the first one again is what is the commonality between all these people that you have met, including yourself. What is the major roadblock that you have seen across your experience in different companies, and what is the reason that they cannot put this in place, even if there are so many success stories in the world? And the third one is, at the end, when a company has the ability to be successful, what was the key? What was the key for them to be so successful?
Okay. That was a wonderful question. Really wonderful. Very well thought out. Nobody ever asked me that before. They're good. So the common element, I think, with all of these geniuses is every one of them wants to teach others the best that they know. They really want to teach. And if we understand it, what teaching is not, if you go back to the Latin word, and this is easy for the English people because they're taught proper English. In America, we're not. If you go back and look at the word educate, educare, the Latin word educare, it means to take out of. Take it, not to put into. When I go to school, the teachers are putting it into me, but Norman was dumb. He couldn't learn. It's to take out of. So a real teacher learns from the student. But the first common element, I think, with all of these people is they want to share their knowledge. They're excited about sharing. Shingo didn't have to come to America. He had enough money working in Japan. Shingo was in a wheelchair. He was dying of cancer, but he didn't know. His wife wouldn't tell him. He wanted to teach. And I think the roadblock, Ohno came up with 7 ways which should become your rules. Those 7 ways is the essence of becoming lean. Ruthlessly, you go after reducing inventory. Ruthlessly, you focus on motion. You should go back and study the Thurbligs. Thurbligs comes from Galbraith, William and Lillian Galbraith, and the Thurbligs, which are the motions. He came up with 17, 18 motions. And when a manager in Toyota looks at an individual, they video, first of all, everybody at work. They video them all. They study the video, and they look at these Thurbligs. Are they bending too much? Are they stretching too much? They take that weight seriously. We don't take that weight seriously in the West. We don't do this. And I added 2 weights. 1, 8, the underutilization of people's talents. That's a terrible waste, the way we waste human beings, because we don't challenge them and we don't give them the kind of work that they can do as human beings. Honda just set up a new plant in Thailand. I wanted to go there, but they wouldn't let me go. Instead of having the assembly line where the car passes the individual and they have a takt time of 3 minutes on every car, the individual is on a platform and they're going with the car. And so the individuals are making the whole car. It's a new experiment with Honda, and I love the idea. It's similar to what Volvo did. And the 9th way, to answer your wonderful question, the 9th way is managers' resistance to change. Somebody wants to do something new, and the first reaction to a manager is, nope, don't do it. Why no? Because everything is all right now. Why should I do something different? I'm threatened when we do something different. So like Ohno, you should go out and challenge people to do the impossible. Ask for the impossible. Don't tell them how. They have the talent to do it. Trust them. Learn to trust people. That's a wonderful question.
So yes. The third part of Juan's question there, Norman, was what was the major takeaway for you, you know, having met all these amazing people?
How to actually the question is, after everything is set up from a major turnaround, from an organization that was underperforming to an organization that is successful in a sustainable way, at the end, what is the major element as a takeaway that was the key to their success?
Excellent question. Thank you. I think once again, we start at the top. We need a very clear vision of what our company is about, and it's good for everybody. It's good for our customers. It's good for our stockholders. It's good for the community. That means we're not polluting the community because we can make more profit. We're focusing on we have a very clear vision. We focus on continuous improvement. We make sure everybody in the company has a clear goal of what they are about. Toyota is doing this now. Toyota asks everybody to pick a goal. Toyota has a new program on mastership. They're identifying their masters. That person that can inspect the car the best is now called a master. And the secret behind this is you never give up. This comes from Harada. You never, 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 never give up. Harada says 6 times you never give up. You pick a goal and you just do it. You believe in yourself. You support each other. You encourage each other. You educate each other. And you demand it. It doesn't mean you let people sleep. No, you demand that everybody grow. You challenge.
So you're saying that. So you're saying that, if I understand correctly, is that at the end, the major success is when the vision of the company has a major impact across the organization, from stakeholders, customers, employees, and community. When the vision is 100% in alignment and everybody works against that vision, correct? Absolutely,
yes. You know, there's a wonderful people to learn from. I mean, I just find them. It's magical. So I find a man called Kazuo Inamori. He started a company called Kyocera, the largest ceramic company in the world. He started another company called KDDI, a very large mobile phone company in Japan. And then the Japanese government goes to him and said, look, Japan Airlines just went bankrupt. They're the national airlines of Japan, and they went bankrupt. I want you to come in and help. He took it over. 2 years later, Juan, they made $800 million. 2 years later after bankruptcy. Well, how did he do it? By having, just like you're asking for, let's get real value, understand value. And we value our company. Toyota said, we have 2 pillars for our success, 2 pillars. One pillar is just in time. The other pillar is called respect for people. What does it mean, respect for people? Giving people real respect is trusting them, is loving them, is demanding from them that they improve everything. We want continuous improvement, but we're not focusing on continuous improvement of ourselves. We're focusing on continuous improvement of the process. You do it all, and then you'll get it. Inamori is worth it to study. If you go to Kyocera's website, you can see his values. They have a separate page for him with his values. Very good. Any other question, please? Well, by the way, thank you for that. I mean, everything that you say for me, you say right now, it was very inspiring for me, and I'm sure that's for the team. Well, I would love to continue to serve your company. I would. I need one good company. And the next thing I mentioned to Neil, because Neil has been beautiful. We've been talking, and we have it all recorded, so Neil can share the recording with you. But I have a new book that I'm reading, a book that I published called The New Production System. And when Ohno left Toyota, he started a new company in Tokyo to teach just a few companies. Actually, he picked 50 companies. Each company was in a different industry. He would not pick a competitor to teach them just in time. And they went to these companies. I'm sure that all 50 of those companies are highly successful today. Just focusing on getting lean, moving it forward, doing the things that we're talking about, getting people excited. Respect for people is demanding from them that they grow. We're not looking to give people charity, no. We demand these people grow. And so I would love to do that with Dover. I would love to work with you on a continued. I'm 85. I'm not going to be around that long. And so I've decided I'm going to work to the moment I die. I tried to retire when I was 65, and I lost my company. I had $1 million company. I was making so much money, and I turned it over to 2 other people, and a year later it was gone. I was so foolish. And I hope you read my new book, A Miraculous Life. Yeah, we will, for sure. I hope so. Any other questions? Neil, take over.
Okay, thank you, Juan. So yeah, let me open it up for other questions. I apologize, this was not meant to be a monopoly of questions for me. So please, can I invite other questions?
Go ahead, unmute and ask a question. Go ahead.
Hey, Neil, barely recognize you. Greg with Dow Key, man, with the beer and everything. I was like, man, I know this guy. And I'm like, Neil from BSC. I have a quick question. I wasn't always the smart student in class, and been reading books and textbooks, and I came across a book called The Lean Startup Methodology not long ago. And, it's the first step of, troubleshooting, learning the process, and how can you go through the feedback loop and learn as quick as possible when developing new products and new ideas. So yes, I'm very intrigued to learning more about, the tools that are available out there that will allow us to learn as quickly as possible so that we can receive feedback from our customers and develop the product that the customer really needs, not the product that the company thinks the customer needs, but how do we, learn from our customer as quickly as possible. So that's just not my comment here from Dow Key.
Oh, that's wonderful. Two key things you brought up. I love it. One is, and Neil says you're already doing it in parts of your company, is you should have study groups. Every manager, every engineer, if not every employee, should be in a study group. It's the cheapest way to educate people. A book. What does it cost you for a book today? I mean, some of these books you get maybe $5, $10, very cheap. And they get in a study group and they read a couple of chapters and then they spend a few minutes together, that's all, every day. And they say, what did we learn and how can we apply it? The trick is to read and apply it. Most of us read books and we don't apply it. The trick is to read it and apply it. And you can do this when you get in groups. Read a book. I mean, a great book is to go back to Shingo's green book, the study of the total production system from an engineering viewpoint. Start to read it and apply it, and you can do it. The next thing is feedback from your customers, of course. My first author was Ryuji Fukuda, a really great genius. The first book that I published when I met him in Japan. Well, just slipped my mind. Bring me back, Neil.
Okay, so we were talking about it's great to study books, and you talked about Shingo's green book and the first one you published, but we must apply as well as read.
Oh, yeah, no, thank you very much. My mind just disappeared. What Fukuda did is he set up a system called CEDAC. It's the cause and effect diagram that a quality manager knows. This is a cause and effect chart. And what he did is he put a chart in both companies. So you have a chart in receiving and your customer has a chart in sending. And you get this feedback instantly, and you can do it over Zoom, over telephone, and the customer immediately responds to you about anything about your product. It's a wonderful technique. And so the customer presents a problem, it goes on your cause-effect diagram, and you get teams immediately involved in solving the customer's problem. So it's very easy to open up a good new link with your customer. Very good questions. Thank you. Somebody else, please. Another question. Come on, it's important to ask questions. Come on, Colin, Howard, ask a question. Don't let your brain fall asleep. Who has a question?
Do you find it's you need to be brave to do what you're doing then, Norman?
Say it again.
Do you have to be very brave to step up and do that then? What you've done? What are you talking about?
Maybe I was just stupid. Maybe that was it, you know. I started off, I was the dumbest kid in school. I was afraid. I was afraid of everything. If you read my new book, I was afraid of the dark. I could not go to sleep as a child without the lights on, and my grandmother had to sit in a chair.
Yep.
I was afraid somebody was going to climb in the window. Well, we go to work today, and so much of our work life is based on fear. Deming said, root out fear. Go back and read Deming's 14 points. They're wonderful.
Yeah.
Take out fear from your environment. Totally. And then you'll do it. You just pick a goal, Howard. Right now, Howard, what do you want to do? What do you want to do to have a successful life?
well, make everybody in here sort of like a better.
Okay, how are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? I want you to pick a solid goal of how you're going to do it.
Share experience from my past and where I've been and companies I've worked for.
What else? What? No, I want something deeper. I want a solid goal that you could measure.
Experience from previous.
I want you to know how you're going to do it. I want to. You want people to get better. Well, how are you going to do it?
Well, teach them and mentor them. What
I've already learned. Goal, okay, you're going to set up a new measurement, a new standard for people to grow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you could measure that standard, but you get a solid goal, and then you work out your tasks of how you're going to attain it.
I think the first question is, what is your goal?
You got to get that goal. We're all evasive because, you see, without a goal, we're not responsible. If you pick a goal, then you're responsible to attain it. So we don't want to pick a goal.
Yeah.
But thank you, Howard. That's very good. Somebody,
thanks, Howard. Norman, if I could ask you one last question. I see somebody's written a question down, which is, I think, Scott in Ventura. How do you explain pull to someone who doesn't know lean?
How do you explain pull to somebody who doesn't understand lean? Yes. Well, it's really to tell about the story of the way manufacturing really works is engineering or sales decides how many pieces to make for a given month, and you set up a schedule. And then people produce the products to your master plan. What Toyota said is by doing that, it forces waste. It forces inventory. We focused on machines as an example. We said, look, this machine costs us a lot of money. We got to make sure that we run it very often. And if we keep running it, the accountants tell us that inventory goes to profit immediately. So it was a good idea to run the machine. The faster you ran the machine, the less cost to the product because you're writing off the machine cost on the product. And Ohno said no. Ohno said, we want to produce only what the customer wants at that moment. He called it just in time. You make now exactly what you need now in the right quantity, the right quality at the lowest possible cost.
So is there a simple way? Is there a simple way of explaining pull to somebody then? Would you capture it in a few words?
Pull is to only make when the customer buys from you. So the housewife goes to the shopping center and she pulls the items off the shelf. As soon as she pulls the items off the shelf, you have to replace the shelf. So you have to order that product immediately to get on that shelf. That's what we do in a company. That's what Ohno did. He looked at the demand every day, and we're going to make, instead of making to order, Kanban means you make what is required at that moment, and then you go back and get the previous process to produce what you need when you need it. It's as simple as that.
Very good. Norman, we've reached the hour. So I would like to thank you for two things. I really feel that I think Juan made mention of it, you've inspired us, and I'm really hoping that it can inspire us to improve from the inside out, to help each other improve in a very genuine fashion, as we now have some structure to do that. So we didn't previously share, and I hope this really opens up those opportunities. And I thank you for inspiring us in that way. So well, thank you so much.
Neil, this is a pleasure for me. I love to talk, as you've seen. Keith sent me a private message. How do you make it happen in the real world? This world is real. And of course, you can do it you just decide to do it, and you can do it. And I'm so happy that Neil has opened up this link, and I thank Travis for introducing us. And I look forward to continue. I'd love to continue to teach Dover. You're a great company. I enjoyed very much. I met, I'm sure, some of you when I went to Utah and I keynoted that conference for you. It was a lot of fun, and I look forward to spending more time with you. Enrich, thank you very much. Let's
So
continue
my
together.
second thanks, Norman, was simply to say thank you for describing me as beautiful. That's never happened before.
Okay, thank you. You take
Okay.
care, everyone. Let's do it again. I'm available.
Thank you, Norman, and thanks to everybody else and
And the
others.
video is available too. We can send this video to the people that didn't come if they want it.
Yeah, and they've asked for their thanks to be extended to you as well. So thank you so much, Norman.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Neil. Take care. Bye.
Thanks to everyone for joining. I hope it was worthwhile.
Thank you.